Hello, and welcome back to Goalie Interference. It's episode 4. Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff. How are you?
Hi, man.
Episode
I'm good.
4, season 2.
Season 4, season 2, season 6, season
Correct.
6, season 2 of Goalie Interference,
Correct.
and season 2 of us saying thank you so much to Jim Jimerson of the
That's
Jimerson
right.
Law Firm.
That's right.
For making Goalie Interference happen.
No wasted time today. We are going straight to it.
Jim takes care of us.
He does.
And I hope that he takes care of everyone out there who could ever be in need of the number one litigation lawyer in Vegas.
I think by law we're not allowed to say that, but because I don't think that there's but in our minds, by our law, we would figure it's that. I did have a magazine. I'm still mad at that magazine. Jim actually texted about said magazine. It's exactly what I thought. I'm not going to say what it was. We're going to talk about the Golden Knights instead.
Yes.
The Golden Knights, who have been winning a lot. When winning matters, seek out the Jim Jimerson Law Firm. They've been winning quite a bit. And most impressively, to me at least, has been the third period of the last 2 games. Last game they came in, I actually texted you in the middle of the second intermission. I said, watch this. The Golden Knights will score in the first 5 minutes of this period.
This is true, folks. This is true, everybody.
But the third period against Toronto is the one I want to start with. And just because that period against a very good team, now they're on the road. Toronto didn't look quite themselves in that game. Vegas deserves a lot of credit for it. But you play like that, you're better than pretty much every team in the league. Like if you can bottle that up, they're a really, really good team. What do you think they did best in that third period?
Well, I mean, the Leafs are potent. That's the biggest thing, right? And if you're playing against teams like the Leafs that have incredibly high-end talent, as their head coach Sheldon Keefe was so apt to tell the media after playing against the Arizona Coyotes recently, you have to shut those players down.
Yep.
You have to get on Austin Matthews. You have to play hard against the Nylanders, Tavares, Marner. And if you don't, they're going to bite you.
Yep.
And, you can kind of look at the flip side. What happened in the third period against San Jose? San Jose couldn't contain the best players of the Vegas Golden Knights. And that's the difference between the great teams. And so I thought the way that they contained them, number one to me, mattered an awful lot. I thought that the Golden Knights really did a good job of playing above the puck. And man, dude, as a goalie, your whole frame of reference is the number of odd man rushes you give up, and
how often are they coming the other way? Yeah. And they got it. I mean, we don't have the numbers on that, but they have to be either the best or top, one of the best in the league. At worst, they're top 5.
They're very good. And of course there will be exceptions. Nieto's goal against San Jose, there's one. I mean, you kind of
bad change.
I think we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I really have admired for the most part how tight they've been able to stay in the neutral zone and not allow teams to gain with speed. And really the third period's when you've got to make it happen. This is where things went off the rails for the club last year. This team went almost 4 full seasons where there was just this feeling that they're going to be able to win no matter what.
Yep.
Really. I remember sitting on the desk and just looking at Mallard and I were both going, yeah, they're going to win again. And they're losing 1 or 2 going into the third.
Yep.
And, San Jose, that first pair, I'm just going, this team sucks.
That team's bad. They're bad.
I'm like, this is going to be no problem. And then guess what? They still had to earn that one. So that Leafs game, though, to me was just, I thought they were fine in the first. I thought it took them a little bit to get their legs completely.
Certainly offensive legs going, yeah. But I thought the defense was there the whole way.
I agree with you on that. And, we'll get into this a bit too, but goaltending really hasn't been the big storyline for me for the Golden Knights, and that's a really good thing because it's been quality, both the goalies have
been fine.
But yeah, so defensively they were fine, but boy, you want to set yourself up for your best period or for the best third that you possibly can. And to me, Vegas poured it on in the second. They were able to actually carry the pace of play against a very fast team. And they did it mostly 5-on-5. There was only 1 penalty in the period in the second against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you want to get into a special teams battle against those clubs, anything can happen, but the fact that they let a club like the Maple Leafs They only had 2 power plays, the Maple Leafs did, one in the second. To me, I thought that Vegas was smart with their gaps. They played above the puck. And in doing so, you're not going to end up in the box very often. And you're
Right.
not going to give a team, again, like this is where the high end talent comes in. Like a team like the Maple Leafs, they could play like shit for 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And if you give them a couple power plays, they could even the thing up.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, that was a really good sign, like across the board. And I don't know, man, right now I feel like really positive about this team. Like I don't think it's going to be
6-2. There's no reason not to be, right?
Yeah, I don't have the feeling that there's like glaring holes to this club right now that I think could sink them quickly. Like
I would agree with that.
we're not seeing those catastrophic breakdowns like we did last year when the team was so horny to go the other direction, where it took one bad pass and here comes a 2-on-1 the other way. And that was, again, my metric. My metric is like odd man rushes.
I mean, under DeBoer, they weren't bad at all. Last year was not as good, but even then, it was usually more so like defensive breakdowns, losing stick battles in front, that type of thing. And one thing I do need to bring up, because I'm actually surprised by this. I looked it up yesterday. Do you know what their record was? Like the best record the Golden Knights had at any point last season. Do you know what it was?
I don't think they were they ever more than like 2 games above 500?
So that's kind of how I felt, because I know they started 1-4. I know that it was a rough go. I knew that they had gotten back to a better spot. I remember kind of in December, it was good. They were 22-12.
No shit.
22-12-0 last season. So they were in a position like this. Now, this is different. It's 8 games in. That was 34, whatever games in. And so it's a different spot. But I guess the reason I kind of bring that up is like, there's a lot that still has to happen. And there are still some question marks that are on this team. But to me, the third period against Toronto and the third period against San Jose, they're very similar in that the neutral zone is perfectly set up every single time the puck turns over. Their breakouts are pretty darn good the entire night. Like, it was not as good in the first 2 periods against San Jose. It was much better the entire game against Toronto. But for the most part, when you play that way, when you play a good team, you've got a darn good shot to beat them. And when you play a shit team, you'll crush them.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. I mean, like, I thought you were going a little bit further on that one, but you
I
are.
was actually about to cough.
Okay.
I'm dying over
here. You had to
here.
get a drink. I gotcha.
Yeah, I was dying. I had more to say, but then I was about to die.
Yeah, the only thing that does give me pause for concern is sometimes within Cassidy's system and playing kind of that hybrid zone defense that they do, there are times where the Golden Knights are going to get stuck in their own zone for long periods of time this year. That's just the nature.
Though they've been very, shockingly successful in that thus far in a season, that you would think there would be breakdowns.
You have to feel comfortable in it, but you do worry over time against the best teams, right? 7-game series, like you can get exposed when you get tired.
And then as teams get more comfortable in their own systems, I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is just a little bit of those issues. And the Golden Knights were the best example is against Toronto. The Misfits, they had probably 4 passes that land right on a guy's stick, and they just cannot catch and shoot like they normally do. So once that comes around, it will be interesting to see how things change.
Yeah, I agree, but it's we're at the point now, once you get past the first 2 weeks and things start to steady out pretty quickly. I do think that one of the things that shows to me the same style of defending, which, I mean, it's interesting because they blocked a lot of shots under DeBoer, but they're still blocking a lot of shots.
Yeah, which is not a Cassidy system thing. Typically, there's been a low block shot team.
Right. So I'm curious to see how that plays over time, because I feel like that might even be a personnel thing as much as it is. I mean, yeah, White Cloud, Martinez, like, you got a lot of guys that are really willing to block shots, and
Martinez has like 40 already.
I know, that poor guy.
Now, I do think T-Mobile Arena is a little bit generous, I'll say, with their blocks. Like, if your stick is anywhere near the puck, like, that's a block.
I won't comment on it because I haven't seen that. When it came to shots on goal, I used to be able to tell you all the best buildings in the American Hockey League. I could tell you that if you played in Ontario or Binghamton, man, you got a ton of shots. and there were other buildings that you knew you were going to lose 3 or 4
Can't get
nights.
one, yeah.
Yep. And I know the NHL to me is a little better because my dad, guess what? My dad's an off-ice official in St. Louis. He's been the official scorer since
Job's
the early
hard.
70s. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like
It's hard,
he
but
knows
they do have inherent biases just of things that they do more. You're going to see more hits in Golden Knights games. You're going to see way more takeaways in Golden Knights games than anywhere else. And then the blocks have seemingly been a little bit higher, but the Golden Knights played 4 games at home, 3 games on the road. So it shouldn't be that far off anyway. But yeah, I am interested to see kind of how the blocks kind of continue to go, and then does that start to wear on them? We're 8 games in, knock on wood, they've been healthy to this point. That's positive. Will that continue? That's one of the things that concerns me with the blocks.
I wouldn't look at it as a negative at all. I still look at it as guys that are of having a core group of guys that are willing to play hard. I would.
Yep.
I would like to see them end up more in the middle of the pack of the NHL, though. If you're really high on it, you start to wonder a bit, but
that means you're giving up a lot of shot attempts too.
It does, and that's key point there. So, but the key things are if you keep the metrics are fine, like giveaways, takeaway, like as long as you manage the puck well, you keep your giveaways under 10 a game, you're gonna be pretty good. You keep it under 5 or 6, man, you're really, really good. And they've been one of the better teams in the league for me, like at keeping the puck on their blade and being smart with it. So
there's been pockets of poor in that, and like the Calgary game was a disaster. There were times
that was
in the
horrendous.
Chicago game. Yeah. I didn't like how they were managing the puck a good portion of the second period last night. I thought they earned the deficit in that game, even though it's a bad change by Martinez. It's but there's 2 defensive zone turnovers before the bad change. So
here's how that works, man. Like I'm watching that game unfold, and I saw him get through the first period, and I thought, cool, they might really be able to run this. They came off what I thought was their best game of the year was against Toronto. That I
would agree. I would agree. No question.
And when you factor in the quality of players you're up against and just how they controlled it, it's hard to keep that mojo going when you're walking into a building like the Shark Tank. But by the way, isn't it sad to see all those empty seats in San Jose? Like that place used to be bonkers.
Yeah.
It's a sad scene in San Jose, and I don't like that because that rivalry is so good. I wish San Jose was good.
Miss it. We really do miss it. And 19-1-4, that's the Golden Knights record in the regular season. 19-1-4 against the Sharks. Like that's not a rivalry.
I keep hoping I'm hoping maybe the Kings will latch on and be the next rivalry, or so, because I actually think those 2 clubs could be pretty interesting. Imagine a 7-game series between them. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch. But
Colorado has the ability to be it if they keep getting playoff series. There's something there, especially if the Golden Knights
repeats.
Yeah,
it's that ease of access though of going down the road to a game. And I lived this as a kid with, when St. Louis would play the Blackhawks when I was a kid, and or even the Red Wings. Like the Red Wings were kind of within driving distance or striking distance, and enough transplants. Dude, you had to have your head on a swivel in the stands. Like there were fights in the stands. My mom's just shielding her child, beers flying and fights all the time. Like that's, I'm not advocating for violence here in the arenas, but that level of passion is pretty cool. When you think about it later.
I have a hard time with that. I've never, I'm passionate when I go to games. I go nuts for my team. I get super mad at things that happen and officials and whatever, but I've never been anywhere close to getting in a fight. I don't understand how does it ever
look at you? You're not going to fight anybody.
Well, yeah, but like I'm yelling. I say fuck a lot. Like I can understand why people would get mad at me, but like I don't understand how it eventually escalates to that point.
I don't know. It's not worth it at all. But in any case, here, I guess where I was going with this though is like I really thought that the Golden Knights were going to coast through last night's game. Is my point. And then the second period hit, and I was like, man, guys, kick it into gear here. Like you could stomp this team, and it really just took those first couple shifts in the third, which were really good. I thought that the wall line, I thought the fourth line was really good a lot of last night. Like they got things going for them.
Numbers disagreed. I thought they struggled in the second period, but
that's this is what I mean. The third line, by the third period, that first shift that they had was just dominant, right? It was like it was flushing away the second that the rest of them all had, because I don't think the team was good in the second, like kind of across the board. But if you can bookend good play in the second game of a back-to-back after you've won the first game, I mean, 2 out of 3 periods in that type of situation, no matter who you're playing, that's a good recipe. Like, you're going to get
points. A bad team. Like, that's going to get you 2 points if you play a bad team, especially if they play a period like they did in the third. So that brings us to kind of the line setup, and we'll get into that. But first, I'll tell you that the Jimerson Law Firm presents every goalie interference episode. The Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms, specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. Nailed it that time. When winning matters, seek out the Jimerson Law Firm and tell them that SinBin sent you. It makes us look really good. Thanks to Jim Jimerson and the Jimerson family.
Thank you, Jim,
for sponsoring this show. So we go to what I'm calling the super line of the first line: Stevenson, Eichel, and Stone. We have the misfits on the second line. Kind of nice that we can potentially have named lines here a little bit. I don't know what you want to call the third line. My seatmate at T-Mobile Arena is calling him the Misfit Toys line. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but also true. Like, they're all discarded, and what do we do with you three? Well, I guess you're playing together now. And then the fourth line, I never liked grinders or any of that crap, but whatever it is. So here we are with a setup now where there's a clear and obvious first line, and they have the ability to be dominant offensively. With the fact that Stone's on there, Eichel can do things defensively. Obviously, it lapses time to time, but there shouldn't be a huge deficiency defensively. The second line,
you're relying on Mark Stone's stick and Chandler Stevenson's speed. You are. Let's face it. That lets Jack do his thing.
But I also think that because of who the second line is, and the misfits being what they're able to do, what they've been able to do historically, they've been able to shut down good players throughout the course of their 5 years together. They're probably going to take a little bit more of a defensive role, especially with the third line not exactly in a position to take that role as much. The question becomes, can you live with a top six that is as good as it is and a bottom six that is potentially as bad as it's going to be? Like, you get away with it against San Jose. I didn't love the offense generation for a good portion of the game against Toronto, but they end up getting to the end. The defense was fantastic. Are you able to consistently generate when you're relying as much as they are? And then the bigger question to me is, we're 8 games into the season. Are we going to be able to make it through a full season where we've got 6 dudes playing 20 minutes a night and the other guys playing 8?
The answer to that's no. This is going to have to disperse a little bit. I would argue with you, though, that I really like the makeup of the fourth line. I thought Nick Waugh has to play center. I like Kolasar in that role. I think Carey is built for it. I think that is a very good fourth line in the NHL. I do. Now, the third line that you've hit on, that's where I have concerns. And I think the team's at least one player away. And that's not to say, like, man, Amadio does some good stuff every now and then.
Yeah,
he really does.
Time to time.
Yeah. And Howden's kind of in that same boat. He had a great year last year. But I don't see those two guys as, like, guarantees. You know, like, you're still – like, Howden, I think – you give me a year more of him in the NHL, maybe 2, you're going to know who he is. I think you're still at that phase where you're finding him out. And Amadio is what he is. And, you know, we know what Phil can do. Phil can skate the puck to the net and score on the power play and do exactly what we thought. And what's interesting is
time out. What do we know Phil can do at this stage?
Phil can do what we saw against San Jose. We saw that he can score.
I disagree.
Okay, so
I'll take the under on Phil scoring like that the rest of the season. If the over-under is 0.5, I will take 0 more chances that Phil skates past a guy and scores this season.
I would take that, because I think Phil will. What Phil's really good at is scoring in stride. And what I actually was referring to was the disallowed goal. Okay.
I'm trying to think what it was now that it was on the back door.
Waugh popped it over. Kessel's in full stride going towards the net, on and off the blade.
Right.
That's really his bread and butter at this stage.
That one I can see.
For me. Now, the speed, like, when we say look at the speed through the neutral zone, we're not going to see that often. Like, I think he got a pretty clear lane to do it. But he's strong, dude. Like he held off the D with one arm and body positioning, no problem. My big point though is you're not going to get much defense there, and that's where this third line concerns me. Like I'm really concerned that Cassidy's not going to trust the third line at all, and that's where you kind of run into running your top two heavy, because like if you trust Carlson's line, the Misfits, if you trust Waz's line in your defensive zone, like you're kind of left in no man's land there. Like you want to have a bit more than that. So I think that the team's probably still. I mean, we talked about this. I think they're a player away, a veteran player away there. But I'm really, I can't believe that Bruce Cassidy did not sit on stage and credit us. When you remember last week when I go, I don't know if the answer is putting Stevenson on the wing and Stone up with Eichel and putting them, and you said put the Misfits back together, and now like
right. Well, we knew it was coming eventually,
and that's exactly what I mean. Like
it was going to happen.
I'm fully aware that this is utterly ridiculous that I'm suggesting that I somehow had a better knowledge of what everybody knew that this could happen, right?
6 games in, not sure. I thought it was going to be that quick.
Yes. So, did you like Stevenson on the wing?
Yes. I've pretty much always liked Stevenson on the wing. I don't think there's a huge. He's one of the few that I don't think there's a huge discrepancy between him on the wing or him at center. I can whatever with the face-offs. Everybody knows what I think about face-offs. But like, yeah, I don't mind it. I think his puck possession and the way he can hold it really opens things up for Eichel, and I like that as an option.
I like Stevenson when he gets down below, when he gets low in his zone and curls off and gives some space, just because he can create that separation.
Yep. Guys lose him like that shift that I wrote about it this morning. That shift against Toronto was just spectacular. Yeah. They just did everything you can ask for in a shift, and they did it in a hurry. Like it was really nice. There's cross ice passes, there's puck battles, there's player movement, there's you name it.
How about the cross face hold, like full sleeper that Mark Stone put on Stevenson when he buried that
after he scored? Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's one Jason and I.
I'm roaring at my TV.
So like that goal was 4-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it? That was not the game tying goal. That was.
I'll go back and look, but I think that gave a little buffer. I think
maybe it was the 3-2. No, because it was the Carlson goal that was 3-2. So that's the 4-2 goal.
Yes,
I'm with Jason on this one a little bit. At some point, 4-2 against the Sharks, when they don't defend at all in that session, and you get a tap in, can we at least a little bit act like we've been here before?
Oh, who cares? This team
a little bit. Like I'm for the insane celebrations when it's a big time goal. That's not a big time goal. Like you'll take it.
I think this team needs it. No, dude, I really think this team needs it.
That's concerning to me if that's the case.
I don't mean that they need it like they're going to suck without it. I just think that joy had been sucked out of the room last year. Without having Stone in the lineup for most of the year, with all the expectations, like I actually believe, and I want your opinion on this too. I believe that this team is actually playing pretty carefree without feeling like they have the same type of expectations that they did before.
I would agree. I think that it's easy to do that when you win your first 3 games of the season and then you get going in the right direction quickly. Like I wonder, what does it look like when they lose 3 in a row, 2, 3, and whatever, have a little bit of a tough road trip, and then Cassidy's down their throats every single day. Like, I don't think it's going to be as carefree for 82 games as it was the Misfit, first season. I just don't think it's going to go that way. And then we get to the playoffs and they're going to be expected to do something.
Nothing will. Yeah, nothing will be like the first season. And I mean, our own our favorite guy, Christopher Boyd in the chat, corrected me. I meant to say when Stone scored the pass from Stevens, but yeah.
Right.
Dude, Chris, you're the man. You absolutely never let anything slide. But yeah, I think that they're playing with some house money right now, though, in terms of their expectations, that's such a refreshing position for them to be in after the last couple of years.
How long does it last?
I'm going to say it's going to really start to heat up a couple weeks before trade deadline, because that's when shit's going to get crazy again. It's going to be, who do we get? Who's on the block? What do we need to do? Because then the narrative is going to start to turn into, man, we're good again, but we're not good enough. And then you're going to hear you're going to get the crazy like interviews from from Foley or something, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's kind of his
You're
MO
not
is like,
wrong.
you know,
I do
so
wonder like how the narrative's going to shift, because at least for me, and I don't know how everybody else feels, maybe we'll utilize the chat here. Before the season started, I think a lot of us were in the same boat of like, yeah, stay healthy. It's a playoff team. Stay healthy into the playoffs. Maybe they can get a run, you know, give somebody a run. But I don't think I believed that they were a cup team. I think most people were in the same boat. Third place in division, get into the playoffs. If they have health issues, I don't know. We'll see what the goalies are, whatever.
I was on board with you. Yeah, I had the
We're
same
8
thoughts.
games in. For me, that narrative have shifted zero. Like, not at all. They've been healthy through all of it. I don't think the goalies have proven anything one way or the other. I know everybody's going to get down my throat on that. The lobbyists are going to be coming after me for that comment. But, like, the goalies have passed. It's pass fail.
Yeah,
They
they've
have
done everything they
passed.
can, man. No
They're doing
problems
what
with
they
the
need to
goalies.
do. I don't think that they're doing anything spectacular. It's fine. I know there's been some good saves in there from Thompson. Whatever. They're fine. I still think there are holes in what I've seen. First hole, I still think they're going to have a hard time generating offense when the going gets tough. Second hole, I just don't think you're going to be able to win with this style of defense or this style of lineup. I don't think you're going to be able to win with no third line, and I don't agree that the fourth line's as strong as they are. I think they're okay. I don't think they're that good. And then
There's
the last
some really,
thing is,
really bad fourth lines in the NHL.
I don't think the special teams is ever going to get there. I think the power play is going to be better. I think the penalty kill is going to be a problem all season long. I just don't know that it's going to get to the point where it needs to get to. I don't think they're going to end the season at 100% with the two combined. Those are the holes I feel. Therefore, I am starting to say, like, now I'm very confident. If the team is healthy, if you give me a fairly healthy team, they're making the playoffs. Like, I'm really confident in that.
I
was
in the
pretty
specific,
confident
especially right now.
Yeah,
I agree with
I
you.
was pretty confident before the season started. I'm very confident now. I am not any more confident that they're a cup contending team. In fact, I still don't think they are. I need a lot more. I need a lot more Toronto third periods.
Well, I still have hope in the power play here. I think that can still grow, but you're not going to see this team magically jump into the top 10 in the league on the power
Right.
play.
It'll grow.
Like,
It'll
we're
grow.
still,
But, like, do you think they're getting to 100% between penalty kill and power play?
boy, I bet they're going to be 95. I really
That's
do.
bad.
And it's not good, but like
That's a huge problem. Like,
you
don't win a cup like that.
You know, you're still kind of missing that creative spark plug on the power play. You know, it's still missing, and that's why they're going to trade for Patrick Kane when he becomes available.
I mean, this seems a little low to me. 89 seems low at the moment. Like,
they'll get 94, 95, I bet you.
Oh,
I bet you they'll get 94.
98, 99.
Yeah.
Assuming health.
Health, yeah. You know, the Pacific is just it's not
good. But like, Edmonton's better. They're going to be better. They're going to be there.
I am curious though to see what happens when Vegas starts to really play some good teams in succession here, though. Man, it's been an easy schedule so far, and I'm looking at like Edmonton, and you see that Edmonton's had a really strong schedule, like hard schedule so far, and they've had to grind some games out. And I don't, you know, I was watching them against St. Louis earlier. I'm obviously not. I don't have it on right now, but like those have been hard games.
The Golden Knights have played 4 home games. 3 of them have been back-to-backs against coming from Colorado. Like, it doesn't get better than that.
You know, so like there's really, it's pretty easy going for the Golden Knights. I mean, clear through November. Really?
Do you want the spoiler on the Oiler Blues game, or are you taping it?
No, go ahead. I'm
2-1 Oilers with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, and so I'm amazed that those 2 games have been close. But where you're really going to find out who the Golden Knights are to me is in December. You know, when this is kind of shook out, and then you start, and then I mean, I'm looking at now. You're going to face, dude. You're going to face Pittsburgh, Detroit, Boston, the Rangers, Philly, who's going to play like a bastard with Tortorella, Boston again, Winnipeg, Chicago Islanders, Buffalo, St. Louis is in the mix there.
LA, Anaheim, back-to-back. Yeah.
That
whole month of December is tricky. And I think November's not easy either.
Look at this lineup. I mean, Buffalo's good.
It's the trip. It's the trip at the beginning that concerns me. It's like 5 games on the road on the East Coast. It's never easy.
We kind of forget that Ottawa's good now again, and even Montreal's a mega wild card. Like, if anybody's thinking that the Golden Knights are just going to walk in and automatically win that one, you can't. Like between Suzuki and Caulfield and kind of the vibe that St. Louis has the Canadians playing with, they're a pretty dangerous team.
This
So
is true that December is
Mhm.
traditionally the Golden Knights' best month. However, I will also throw in that traditionally Cassidy gets off to a real hot start and then his teams kind of come around as the time goes on. I think teams start to learn how to deal with what they're doing and it becomes more clear of like, let's just not fling shots from the outside. Golden Knights never learned that the last 4 years, but I do think that December's going to be interesting. We're going to, by the time the new year rolls around, like I was always nervous about Thanksgiving. I'm not as nervous about Thanksgiving anymore. They'll be in good shape by then. But by the end of the year, and then when we start getting into the new year, and then you're going to start having a few guys out of the lineup here or there, like that's going to be the first test. Like the second they lose anyone, basically anybody in the lineup at the moment, it's going to be tricky because they don't have a lot of depth at all.
No, they don't. And you really look at how condensed it is. December and March are the 2 months for the Golden Knights that it's every other day.
Yep.
Like they're playing so much hockey. And if you lose, a player and a half can make a huge difference for this team.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that they've managed to keep everybody in the lineup so far this year because I don't see the replacements that are going to be like Cotter had a great camp, but like he still needs to develop and keep playing, and like, and I think you can put Jake Leschyshyn in on the fourth line center and you're fine. I got no problems with him, but like, where's your scoring going to come from if you need it? If you're missing a big dog, that's the big concern because this is already a team they've struggled to produce goals, like you said, man. You can't just rely on your power play, like we were talking about.
The numbers are there.
Like
it's tricky to say that after 8 games because the numbers are there. They are scoring goals
but
they are doing.
They potted 5 against Seattle. Great,
yeah, but it does feel like when you watch the game, especially at 5-on-5, it does feel like they get some offensive zone time. It's like it's kind of nothing really going on. It doesn't really look all that dangerous. There's not a lot of dangerous passes. Like, to me, there's still that in the periphery. Now, 2 games of the super first line, we've seen some shit. Like, we've seen some movement. We've seen some great passing, some tap-in goals. Like, that's what
fun
I'm
to watch
about. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's
what you've been hoping to see with Eichel when he showed up. Is it not? Like, this is what we've been hoping to see.
You can rely on the rush through the misfit line. You can rely on these ridiculous grind it out, shoot it off your teammate's butthole goals that the fourth line tends to get. Like you can get some of that if you're generating some good goals with that first line. I still look at that third line and I say, man, road games are going to be tough when you play anybody but San Jose.
Matchups can matter. That's where you get a team that can roll a pretty good third line out. But that's one of the things that DeBoer used to always say, right? We need what did he say? Not X factor. He had a specific phrase.
Tuck the X factor, yeah.
Tuck was the X factor, and he's been factoring for
he's
the
awesome. He's a good player. So, but let's answer this question real quick before we bring Jason up. What has been the biggest system change you've noticed from DeBoer to Cassie? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really just neutral zone, that the way that they've been, and DeBoer did 1-2-2 for a long time, but I think they've been really good about it. That's the first thing that comes to mind, but we've seen that previously. I just think it's been really effective.
It has.
Like the D zone though is different. It's way different. Like we're packing the middle, you're keeping the team to the outside, the zone defense, zone hybrid, whatever they want to call it. It will let teams retain pucks in your defensive zone longer than it would man on man. But you're much less likely to break down and have catastrophic problems coming at your net. So it definitely looks different from a goalie's perspective. I've said this, like I loved playing zone because I felt things were the outside, but I also trusted, hey, I've got to get a whistle here or I've got to get this puck out. And that's with the 2 goalies, one thing, like Thompson to me still there's rebounds and he'll even, he kicks them pretty good too. I think that Thompson's all arms and legs. It doesn't concern me, but it is something to I think we need to keep an eye on is if those goalies can be really tight, like their best nights are going to be when they're tidy with their rebounds, put it that way, because you're not going to have that same availability to just, send a guy out as quick as you can to grab that puck wherever on the ice when necessary.
So one other thing that I've noticed, and I would agree with you, the biggest change to me is the defensive zone system. Like it's different. Like it's clear that it's different. They're spending more time, like everything you said. Neutral zone, It's different from what they did last year. It's familiar to what they did the first 4 years. However, it is like the success rate of it is what has been the big difference. Is the success rate of the neutral zone last year was hit or miss. This year, it's been fairly consistently on outside of the Calgary game. The last thing to me is how little the defensemen are involved in the attack. Like, they're not really on the rush. They're not really invested. They don't really do a lot of high to low. It's pretty clear that his expectation is if you're taking a shot from the point, we better go get this rebound no matter where that damn puck goes. And you're going to hear about it. So to this point, 8 games, 2 goals from defensemen. They've both been basically flung from the point. So that's going to be another piece where, like, that is something that we had seen a lot of, where that was a way that they were scoring for a while there. I think that's going away. We're going to get into Pietrangelo and Martinez next, but Jason came with something today, and we're interested in your opinion because we like the idea to a degree. We want to see what you think. Go ahead. I can't hear you.
Lay it on me, Jason, after you take the mute off. Promise you haven't. We try this before the show goes on.
Oh, I thought Ken had control there.
No,
he's back. There's Jason.
Mike, Ken, how are you? So, Mike, okay, so today on 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick were talking to, I believe his name is Steve Mayer, and he's in control of, I think, the entertainment and development of all the events that the NHL has.
SinBin
podcast at the NHL.
Yes, he was on with Ken. You interviewed him last year, right?
Yes, I did. I gave him the idea.
I think Steve's had a lot to do with like Winter Classic and everything.
Yeah,
right?
Awesome. He confirmed that the bubble was going to be here, and then things fell apart right at the end. So my reporting that was the plan doesn't look as shitty as it does when it didn't happen. And also, I pitched him the idea of putting the rink in the middle of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard, and he loved the idea. So we've got a shot.
Good.
Well, he's got a lot of creative ideas. He was just talking about maybe leaving the infield open when they play at Fenway, so that way they can see who's the fastest skater around the bases. I doubt MLB will let that happen, but so this one, Ken and I were talking about, and I think it's brilliant, right? The only thing is it's brilliant for Vegas. I just don't know if they can make it work with throughout the league, but they want to do a 24-hour day of hockey. So one of the suggestions would be starting the Golden Knights game at around 12 to 1 o'clock in the morning. And then they would go on. Game. Yeah. So, I mean, I think everybody in Vegas would love the idea. I think that'd be a lot of, just tickets would be crazy, right? Mike, I'm sure you have at least some sort of experience of a crazy midnight or late night game.
You know what's funny with the Las Vegas
and do you like
Rangers?
The idea?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. Awesome. This is a layup. Like, this makes all the sense in the world. So I'm going to take you on a little trip down memory lane here, playing with the Las Vegas Wranglers of the ECHL between 2005 and 2007. I actually got called up to the American League right in advance of both midnight games that I would have taken part in. So I didn't get the opportunity. I was also not there for the 18 and up game that they were showing R-rated movies on the big screen. And I heard there were stripper poles on the course. I don't know if that was true or not. Like, it was 18 wrong? And up.
Should we not have done that?
It was interesting. I don't think James Reimer would have liked it, but we get there, and I was there for the day before. I got called up that day before the midnight game. I'll never forget our coach, Glenn Gulletson, who's now the assistant coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Previously was a head coach with Dallas and Calgary. Glenn Gulletson is, I don't have anything in my career or life without Glenn Gulletson. Like, I held him in the highest regard. Fantastic coach, person, amazing to catch up with him last year in playoffs when I did that game for TNT. We saw each other and we ate dinner for, it felt like 3 hours. But he told everybody in the room, he's like, "Hey, fellas." And he had this Western Canadian accent. He's like, "Hey, fellas, hey, we're going to have to stay awake here. And I got to tell you, the coffee can only do so much. So, fellas, you got the green light tonight, and I'm telling you, go out. I just have 1 or 2 and just stay out until like 2 a.m. And then I want you to sleep all tomorrow, and we'll come in here at about noon. We'll have our story and have our pre-scout, and then we're going to play a game at midnight." So he encouraged the whole team to go out.
I love it.
Now it's also the ECHL. Okay, so it's a little different, but like
I love it.
what all he was trying to do is throw our body clock off a little bit and just get us to sleep like all day so that we'd have some energy at night. And I can't remember what happened in those games because I wasn't there, but they sold well. They were unique. They did typical crazy promotions that you can imagine for the ECHL.
Stuff.
I mean, we did Dick Cheney hunting vest night after Dick Cheney shot that guy in the face.
One time he shoots somebody.
Yeah, we had
one time
orange vests that said "Don't shoot me, I'm human" on the back of them.
He shoots a guy one time in the face, and now that's all he did.
I gotta tell you,
vice president, come on.
CNN couldn't have enough cameras there, and Fox News had a conniption fit about it. But
did the players get to keep those uniforms? I've always wondered because some of these ECHL, AHL, they wear the SpongeBob jerseys or they wear something really cool.
So
and you don't get
they always raffle those ones, or not raffle. They sell those, the specialty ones. Those are money makers for ECHL teams. But I guess in what I'm saying here, though, I would love a midnight game. I would love it if the NHL took it a step further to spread it out even more amongst North America. I'd love to see him play a game in Alaska to start it off, at like whatever time at night, and just go from like the West Coast to the East Coast, just kind of in progression or whatever.
Go across the ocean.
Go all the way to like, you could do that, or you could go
Sweden,
to St. John's,
Finland,
Newfoundland.
yes.
You could just do North America, but you could go from, whether it's Fairbanks or Anchorage, all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland. And you'd pretty much cover the whole day by the time you did it. It would be really, really cool, man. And I think you could do so many cool different angles and promotions with it. You could have.
But there's so many stale markets, traditional markets, that I don't know if they could get themselves to wrap themselves around it.
Sweden, Czechia, Switzerland. Go over
I think it would there. I think it would be more of an exercise in the novelty of playing all for 24 hours than it would be to find the different locations. But I think if you can find the right ones to mix in, like the NHL, I don't think's ever played in Alaska before, right? Like expand that footprint. There's a lot of hockey fans there. Maybe you can pull that one off.
Okay, now I'm going to get crazy. I got a better idea. Not only are we playing games 24 hours a day, we're doing it all over the place, but they're worth triple.
Ooh.
So you know what? They do that in IndyCar. It's double points for the Indianapolis 500.
I have always been a fan of regular season games having different meaning. Now, we don't get it at all in this sport. 82 games, 1 out of 82. Each game is not all that important when you really consider it. Now, obviously, it comes down at the end. They all matter, whatever.
That's Vancouver.
But it's not quite the same as,
true.
Like there are definitely opportunities for this league. Baseball is another good example where they have 162. Make some of the games matter more. There's different ways to do it. Double points, whether you have each team gets to determine a game before the game starts that they get more points on. That would be hilarious and awesome.
You're crazy,
We're playing San Jose. We're playing for more points today. Like, how great would the storyline be that goes? And like, I know we're getting off the rails and like it's ridiculous, but it's these types of things that when you really consider what a regular season is, and like we were kind of excited about the idea of like, this might be an exciting regular season. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. If they go 6-2 in their next 8 games and they're 12-4, it's over. They're in the playoffs. And therefore none of the rest of the games matter. I don't like that about the NHL regular season. It is 16 teams all get in. There's 0 benefits to finishing first over 16th. I think we could have that, and that would be a hell of a way to roll it out. Not only are we doing this all day, this entire day, but the games mean more. Be great.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned Vegas, them, 12-4, and they would be in. At this point, I mentioned Vancouver, they're out. I mean, it's literally, they're out. I mean, how are you possibly going to make up all those points in your division when we think that the other division is just as strong?
If they win 4 games in a row, they're right back in it. Like,
yeah, I mean, you think about during the course of the season, if you drop 5 or 6 in a row, teams still make playoffs like that. It really becomes daunting when it's at the start of the season. That team is lost though in Vancouver, man. like even Demko's kind of like throwing his arms in the air. I think at this point, they're so thin on the blue line. And now they're missing Quinn Hughes and
Right.
Tyler Myers on top of that. They've got 4 entry-level contracts in the lineup. I don't know. That team's not constructed very well, and it feels like there's a lot of passing the buck going on there, and they just got to play harder. So
it can't just be the coach, right?
No, it's not just the coach, but it's you can't. There's not a lot of winners in that room. Like you need guys that have won things before, like in pro hockey. And they've got a lot of people that haven't played a lot of playoff games. And if they did, they were 10 years ago. But there's just a lot of inexperience there. And if you hear your captain saying things like, it just feels like we're never going to win a game. Like, Bo Horvat, you are a damn good hockey player, but man, you need to project some strength for your team here. Like, you don't want to do that because you're just feeding that negative cyclical mindset, man. And he's actually been a pretty good player for him. He's leading them in goals, I think, like 4 or 5. So
speaking of negative cyclical mindset, let me get back to the Golden Knights, and I'll say one thing that I find to be negative. And I don't know if what's cyclical mean? Do you mean cynical?
No, cyclical means that it happens
like in a cycle,
like spin cycle. Yes.
I don't think this has been in a cycle. This would be cynical, though. That's just one letter different. I don't think they're getting the best out of Alec Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo consistently. I think there are times where they get good performances out of each. There are definitely times where they're leaned on to be put in these high leverage defensive situations. They've come up successful in the last 2 with the empty net situations in the last 2 games. However, I don't know moving forward that that's a number 1 pair in the NHL on a team that's supposed to compete for a playoff spot. And I know that's kind of rough to say because they're making almost $14 million between the 2 of them. Actually, it is $14 million between the 2 of them. Am I wrong here?
I've had concerns. I've seen Shea Theodore flip some pucks into bad spaces. I think I've seen him, take off at times that aren't great, but I've also seen Braden McNabb be pretty much within his boundaries, within his guardrails, man. Like that's a guy. Braden McNabb it's
been great.
You know what you're getting, and he's not going to deviate from that. And that makes Shea's game so easy. The wild part to me is that it's not Petro. Like Petro has had a penchant for kind of just getting lost occasionally, right? Just it almost looks like he just kind of spaces out sometimes. But
just here, Mike, or in St. Louis as well?
No, you would see it in St. Louis younger in his career, but like when he's engaged and on, it doesn't happen. But Martinez is the one that really has surprised me. And to just watch those guys trigger on players at times that were really inopportune, to see not quite the same type of jam in front of the net. Like even that deflection goal the other night in San Jose, Petro's just kind of wandering back. And I know that Nieto's breakaway it's a bad change and everything, and you expect middle ice to be covered a bit, but there just wasn't that same urgency, to what when Petro's at his best, he can be urgent and force things. And so I have hope with this that it's just kind of blips on the radar right now. It's early going. But I don't want to split up Theodore and McNabb. Do you guys? I don't want to.
I mean, you said it earlier. I think, and you guys might laugh at me, but with the contract and with the position that he plays, how solid and steady he is, I think McNabb is irreplaceable on this game.
I wouldn't mind Pietrangelo with McNabb.
Now, that's the direction I would go if they did it. Because we've seen Theo and Martinez play really well together. And by the way, how about Nick Hague kicking into gear through the neutral zone?
Yep.
Holy shit, man. Like that's like we were talking about this last week about how Hague's just pretty much like the big bomb one time. Like, oh man,
great
I was pumped to see that. Like,
yeah, it was fantastic.
I haven't noticed Zach Whitecloud a lot other than eating pucks left and right. But I'm not sure whether that's system or not. So I
have noticed he's a little bit more physical. I've noticed this year in guys' faces, getting a little bit more into scrums. As years past, he maybe was getting, maybe not timid, but he was getting a little bit more comfortable after plays. Seems like he's doing that this year.
I'd say he's more assertive. I think he probably feels like he has to. I think there's a duty to it in some regards. There's not a lot of beef on this club, and Whitecloud's really, to me, one of the guys who's just willing to do that. And You look at the forward ranks. Who else is going to really get in and rub some faces? Kolasar will. I mean, Carrier is going to lay a big
Stone
hit.
a little bit.
I can't believe. I still don't think I've seen Carrier ever fight, which blows me away.
I think he has one fight last year, right?
Yeah, like you think with those big catcher's mitts of hands, he could just pound people. Like, but he doesn't seem to want to do it.
He's just a nice guy. He's a good guy.
He is. He just likes to fish.
He's a good guy. Yeah, don't fight me.
He really was one of my favorite guys to talk to. Like, there's not many bad guys at all, but he was always just smiling, happy to talk. Like, yeah, just
I could see him just completely destroying a guy and then be like, "Oh, sorry there."
That's
Derek Grant. He fought last season.
Yeah, it's right. He fought Granner, and Granner's no like specimen. He's just tall. I remember that fight because it if I remember right, it just like kind of happened. It was after the whistle one, but
that's how fights should happen.
I agree with you. I think they need to be crimes of passion rather than staged bullshit. I can't stand staged fights.
Yes.
So you don't like right off the face-off?
No, that's a joke. Like that's where when John Scott goes after Kessel and Kessel starts swinging for the fences with the baseball bat. I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
We know it here.
And congrats to Phil Kessel, the Iron Man, and scoring. And dude, his interviews are they're so bad. It's so good.
It's horrible.
But it's almost like he's doing it on purpose now. Like I bet at this stage he is, like, and Dominic Moore had him on ESPN for the interview. I think it was in the first period. And he just asked him, so tell me, real story, something like that. Like, how many mornings do you get up and you just want to do this? And it was like one real glimmer though, where Phil like laughed and just went, quite a few actually, but I just love the game. And he's just so matter of fact, man. Like
that question's been asked to him 30 times over the last 4 days, and he just can't think of one.
Yeah. So like
I'm telling you, there isn't one in there. Like I'm sure there were days, but there's just not one in there. Like I don't think it was ever that close.
Yeah.
Are the leg press stories real, Mike?
I've heard he's built like a house, and this is the real deal. Like he can really do it. My favorite was Stone's interview after the game where he just was talking about him, and Stone is he is the most undercover, like cerebral hockey guy you could ever imagine. And,
is he undercover in that?
Well, I just think it doesn't always come out unless you get a question that really leads to it. If you open the door for Stone to really dig deep on hockey, man, you're going to get a great answer because he's absolutely people say student of the game. And I know it's a cliche thing, but he's a guy I really think is like, I think I know he watches a lot of hockey. Like
I'm pretty sure he has a 4 TV setup.
He loves this sport. He watches hockey. It's his passion to the core. It's not just playing it. It's knowing everything about it. And just hearing him talk about Phil, like he rattled off some stats in that interview that I don't think the person asking the questions said first. That's when you really know somebody's digging deep, when they can just say, oh yeah, man, 990 games. I could have never imagined he could do this. I've played 10 years in this league and I've never made it a full 82. I think the most I ever played was this number. And like, boy, he's bright. And I don't know. I think he's fun to listen to in his interviews compared to like Phil. I like the interviews just because they make me laugh. I know nothing's going to come. And I like seeing the interviewer get frustrated.
Do you guys remember the skit Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer?
From was that Saturday Night Live?
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Stone. It kind of reminds me of Stone, where he doesn't look like, the most intelligent man, but, break it all down. The Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, he understands litigation.
Man.
Yes.
But that's very intelligent man.
Yeah, it sucks.
When's the last time they've done anything good?
They had some pretty good cannon fodder early on.
Oh, I guess that the Mannings thing was good a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, when they were doing the debates in 2016 and Alec Baldwin would come on.
That was now 6 years ago, Mike.
You're right. I actually wasn't even gray back then.
You just referenced the debates in 2016 as what has SNL done recently. Well done there. All right, let's
So you
get
guys
to this
are you going to vote? You guys are going to vote in the midterms that are coming up,
course,
right?
we're
November
gonna
I already did. Already did.
This
Yeah,
is
I did on
to
Saturday
everybody
or
out
Sunday.
there. Let me get on my soapbox for
Oh
like a
boy,
minute
here we go. Here we go.
To
Hashtag
everybody
vote.
out there, as an American, it's our duty to go and vote. Whoever the hell you're going to vote for, get in there and do it. It's
with you,
not
Mike.
hard. Please let your voice be heard. Don't be those candy asses that don't ever vote and sit there and piss and moan about everything. Nothing drives me crazier than that. I know enough of those people. Go vote. If you vote, you can complain all you want. Seriously.
Just don't
Mike,
do it on our Twitter.
I walked in on Sunday, literally took me less than 10 minutes, brought my kid with me. He voted for me.
That's
Perfect.
It
That's
was
not
pretty
legal, but we're not
legal.
going to tell
That's
anybody.
a felony.
It was fairly illegal, but yeah, so early voting, go in. I'm telling you, it takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Real quick.
100% that's a felony.
Do we
Yeah, I
know
think so.
do we know when the team Halloween party is?
We
It
have
may
to
been
assume
tonight.
it's probably right now would be my
Who
guess.
are the
Yeah.
stalkers that check all the wives' Instagrams? That's who
Yeah,
we
I
need.
mean, it's either going to be
yeah.
tonight or it'll be Saturday night. It might actually be Friday night after the 3:00 game. That's also a possibility. I'm going to say it's not today. I'll say it's either Friday night or Saturday night. Let's take our guesses. Best
They
costume
play
of
at
the
Washington on the 1st, so it's probably tonight.
year. Yeah, no, I don't. I think it's going to be Friday or Saturday. Probably Friday after the game.
No, it'll be tonight.
This
Maybe.
is going to be exciting. Who's going to come
I
up?
don't
You
know.
don't think they'll do it
Okay,
after a 3:00 game?
After game's tough because you got to
3:00.
do
The
makeup.
game's
And,
at 3:00.
but they do. Some of these guys take it serious and they do makeup and things like coming back
Remember,
from
it
San
took like
Jose. Today,
4 hours for Neil's costume.
like, and today is probably a day off. Am I mistaken? I didn't look at the practice schedule.
It was a day off. Yes.
It's today. I bet you. So keep an eye on the wags, everybody.
Typically,
Yes.
we've seen the costumes by now. If it would have been,
Because
today.
nobody on the Vegas Golden Knights is allowed to use social media. So,
who's your guest? Who's your guest? Like, you think Phil will do something good? I would take the
dude,
under on that.
I hope so. Stone's creative more so than you might ever think.
Logan's gonna go for it. You watch.
He doesn't even need to go for it.
He's gonna go for it.
How about this? Who's our sleeper pick amongst the group for something really good?
Ooh.
Cotter, is he a sleeper pick?
He's young. Young people
He's
do what
obvious.
they're told.
Too obvious on the Cotter one.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say Carlson, but he's not really a wild card pick.
Well, that's because his wife does it. He doesn't get any credit.
Okay.
He spends a lot of money on it because he spends a lot of money on it.
His wife does it.
How about Bruce Cassidy? Are coaches allowed?
Coaches aren't there.
Okay,
No,
all
coaches
right.
aren't there.
Even if he were there, he would show up as a hockey coach, and then
I'm gonna go Chandler Stevenson.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I got a hunch.
He's been on the team a while. We haven't seen a lot.
If you're gonna go true sleeper, you got to go deep into the. It's gonna be the Mike Amadio hole.
Yeah.
Like, that's your true sleeper.
Michael Amadio.
What's that?
Not a lot of personality there. Mike Amadio is a good guy, but there is not a lot of personality there. If
But
he
those
whips
are the-
out a
those
hell
are
of
the
a
ones.
Halloween costume, it would put him way higher in my list. Let's get back to
I'm
hockey.
going Aiden Hill. I just thought about it. I'm going
Ooh, that would
Aiden
be
Hill.
fun. I could see
You
that.
know why? Because he's new to the club and he's going to try and make them all laugh. So it's going to be, and
I could see
goalies are quirky, right, Mike? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be Hill.
Speaking of goalies, Brennan's question, does Brossoit get traded to another club in need of a goalie? Any pick in this year's draft would help our depth. I'll ask the question first to you, Mike. Does Brossoit get traded? And then B, do the Golden Knights actually get the pick back, or are they giving one?
Boy, I would bet if the way goaltending is going, I think they would get a pick back. I don't think it would be unloading a contract. If you're giving a guy away, you got to give it. I do think that I have a hard time believing Brossoit is going to factor. I think he's just going to get traded. That's my gut, man. This is
Cassidy's
not
talking
me.
a big game about him if that's the plan.
I know, and that's where I'm kind of like stuck on it, is that I know they've done that, but you also want to keep a guy in the mix. You don't want to make him feel alienated. I could see him coming back and playing a couple games and being
winner, Mike.
Being a beekeeper. Okay,
it was
Sounds
tonight
not
though.
great, but we'll see what it looks like.
Help us out on that one. So yeah, I mean, I could see them try to showcase him for a couple games at least. So I don't know wives on a first name basis. I don't know who.
That's Carlson's wife. That's the one you should know. She was on The Bachelorette or Bachelor. Or
I don't watch
shit.
that trash. I don't. That's not my thing.
I mean, it's still she's a person. Like it's like a celebrity sort of.
But Mike,
I can't stand celebrity culture. I can't stand.
We talked about it last week, right? He keeps bringing up Brossoit and the fact that Logan you can move him down,
Waiver
right?
exempt, yep.
You could do that.
This club likes to take advantage of things like that.
Yes. But on paper, I think, is when you would see it. I'd be surprised. Logan's not going to play in the American League this year.
No.
So, I mean, could they move him on paper if you were like, let's say you're going to get Brossoit a game or two? I could see them move Logan on paper down if somehow they needed to do so to create a bit of space. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be kind of surprised to see it. It's going to be, I can't read this. My gut says Brossoit is going to get dealt. The way that they're talking about it doesn't go that direction.
I just don't see why a team is stepping up to take on that contract for the rest of the year, help the Golden Knights out. I just don't. I
think that's a key part. Like, it's not even really helping them. I think the key portion to it is really that
it is.
They need goalies. Like teams will need goalies.
Who needs Laurent Brossoit?
Toronto.
They need Laurent Brossoit.
Washington.
Oh God, they need a warm body, big time. Washington will be fine. Toronto's going to need somebody other than Samsonov.
He's picked up for sure.
At 2.5, I don't know.
I don't think he would. So if you believe if he's waived and he doesn't get picked up, then they have to pay to trade him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he'd have value on the market. I'm not sure how it would play out, but I think
yes. To the question, would Logan lose money at that point? Yes, he would.
He is on a 2-way this year, and that would be some. That wouldn't go over well. That'd be pretty greasy for a guy that's carrying your club. That's part of the reason why I don't see him.
Challenge. Carrying the club.
No, that was okay. Thanks for calling me out on that. But for a guy who you expect to continue to carry your club and be your guy, and has earned the right to be there by all means.
Continue carrying your club. Sorry, I'm after the lobby. The big Tommy lobby.
So do you think Adin Hill is going to steal the? Do you think Adin Hill is going to steal the crease away from Logan?
Yes, I think it's possible. I think Adin Hill fits.
Do you think it's going to happen?
Due to the backlash of the big Tommy lobby, I will say no.
Dude, somebody mentioned something about Haig missing his friends.
Ooh, that was an aggressive one.
Well, if that's the case, does Cassidy have in his head a date, or do most coaches have in their head a date? I want a starter by this date.
A number one.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think what you're seeing now is what you're going to get. Like, look what Cassidy's done previously with goaltenders. He's never been afraid to roll guys out 3-2 ratio or 3-1 ratio.
Can I ask about this highlight thing too? So Chris is saying it on the comment. You said it earlier. What are we highlighting? Does anyone not know? Like, if Laurent Brossoit comes out and saves 90 straight pucks, are we like, first round pick? Gotta have him. Like, are we that dumb? Are we?
It's not dumb. It's got to prove that he can play, that he's not hurt anymore.
Oh, so it's just so now to offload him, we just need to prove that his hips work again.
Hey, you're not getting damaged goods. That's what you're trying to prove.
That sounds even worse of a situation for the Golden Knights. Let's waive the goalie that is carrying the mail for the team, or what was it? What did you say? Carrying the team. And then, or not waive, but we're going to put him through. And then we're going to play a guy just to prove to other teams that he doesn't suck anymore.
No, it said he's healthy. It's not that he doesn't suck.
You don't suck.
But he hasn't played.
Here's a 5th-round pick. We don't want him anymore so that we can waste the rest of our first-round picks for the rest of the decade on Pat Kane.
They're facing a situation where Brossoit hasn't played meaningful minutes where he was healthy. 10 months.
Yeah, I mean, what, since February, or is that what we're looking at?
So you got to show that this guy's healthy if you're going to even think about moving him. That's all. So we'll see.
AHL stint.
He can go down on a conditioning
Seems like
stint.
a
That could
no-brainer.
happen.
Now, should he deny that?
No.
Why not?
He shouldn't.
What if he likes Vegas?
Well, he's in Vegas. He's still going to make the same
If he
money.
goes on the AHL stint, he's gone.
If he goes to it on an AHL conditioning stint, it's a maximum of 7 days or 3 games, and he's still going to pay your NHL money.
No, I'm not saying that, but then that's the proof that he's not broken anymore and that he doesn't suck. And then if he saves them all, GMs around the league will say, wow, I must have him now, because that's apparently what happens.
But nobody watches the American League.
Good.
That's wrong. They do watch it, but they'd want to see him in NHL action. They want to have their pro scouts, their top pro scouts in the building and get into NHL action. It's just how it works, Ken. We've been down this road before. You want to be progressive and do these things your different way, but this is how it works in hockey, man.
So you're saying no team that would be interested in his service would be in the Henderson games?
Well, they would be, but I think that you'd want to see him do those and then play NHL. Unless the team's terribly desperate.
I cannot wrap my head around the concept of someone sitting here saying, I need Laurent Brossoit. And not only do I need Laurent Brossoit, but I want you to prove to me that he is the old Laurent Brossoit, which is at best a backup goalie. I need to know that. And then I'm going to take on the bad contract that you're underwater with. You're $17 away from the cap. You're no problem. Help you there. And we'll also give you a pick, which you don't have enough of, so that you can buy Pat Kane. What is going on?
If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and you think that Eric Shalgren's not your guy and you're desperate and he's the best out there. I'm not saying these things. I'm not playing GM that these things are going to happen. This is from the experience of what I have seen and been around in hockey, what I think will happen. I can't galaxy brain a deal right now. I just think that Brossoit would have trade value if that's the route they decided to go on, if they kind of get forced into that hole. That's just all I think.
If that's the case, if Brossoit has trade value, then is it not possible he's still the best goalie on this team?
It is possible. But he hasn't played in 10 months.
Trading him would make very little sense again.
Well, it just depends how they're
right.
I mean,
and then that brings me back to
I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know internally if they got to December last year, whether he was healthy or hurt or not, whether he was healthy, hurt, or anything, and they went, oh shit, he's not the guy. That's what I can't tell, because you know what? DeBoer didn't have a lick of confidence in him, and you can tell that.
He did after one game, and then all of a sudden the next start around, it seemed like he was down on him. So it wasn't right. He seemed a little back and forth with him.
Are we trusting Pete DeBoer on the goalie decisions?
No, Pete's a goalie hater. But Pete's got life pretty good right now in Dallas. That he's got some pretty good goalies, especially with Ottinger. And Pete's done a really good job in Dallas. I picked him to win the Jack Adams, guys.
I picked them to win the conference in the regular season.
Did you guys see the texter? Did you look over in the texter there?
The texter?
Mm-hmm.
What am I looking? Did you text me something? Oh, you did text me something. What is this?
With my mobile device.
This is an old school hangover. Yeah.
So that was when.
Show this? Am I supposed to show this?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, Nick Hague is missing his friends. That's what it's been said.
His friends are Cody Glass and Dylan Coughlin.
Yeah.
Nick Hague looks.
Remember they were all living together. That was
Why does he look so young in that picture? How long ago is this?
2 years ago. That was my Photoshop masterpiece that I.
You did this?
Maybe not.
You paid someone to do this for you?
Oh no, I do all that myself. That's in-house work, brother.
Elite.
Wow.
No, I just thought it was too funny. The guys were all living together, it just would have been fun to be able to use that, but I didn't.
You should have made the baby somebody. Like who could? I'm trying to think who it could have been. It could have been like like Paul Cotter or something down there.
I didn't have the guts to like try to put that one on air because I knew
Yeah.
it would get shot down immediately. It's too funny, but
Oh, you mean
Yeah, fun is
yes.
not fun.
or
We're not
on
allowed to have
anything. I
fun.
like put it on social media or anything. I was just like, nah, I'm gonna let this one sit.
Yeah,
Now,
fun is not fun. Let me just
two of the
end
guys
with
that got
this
traded.
question. I just want your overall thoughts, both of you. What have we learned about the goaltenders through 8 games?
So, Jason, go ahead.
I don't think we've learned too much. Mike said it earlier. They've been good. They've done what they've been expected to do. The only thing is I don't think they've had too many challenging games. I know that they played Colorado. I know they played the Flames. They did a good job, holding them down to 3 goals each. I just, in my opinion, I keep hearing Brossoit. I keep hearing Hill is playing well. I keep hearing that Logan is playing well, all coming from Cassidy. I don't have a clue of who he's leaning towards. And I'm not so sure that he even knows yet. So I don't think we've learned enough. Let's be honest. I think going into the season, we're a little concerned about it. They've done what they need to do in the first month. Next month, it gets a little more difficult. They're on the road. They go to Eastern Canada. So, yeah, I think this next month, these next 14 games will really help us out.
I think that's pretty good assessment, Jason. I mean, these two guys have done everything they've been asked. They've been fine. They've won games. Logan Thompson's had some mega periods for this club, mega periods, and he's also had games where, I mean, they could have stuck an orange cone in the net, and that's a good feeling as a goalie. Like, you didn't have to do a ton. I think I've been most surprised by Aiden Hill, though. After last year watching him with San Jose, I had real reservations to him ever being able to grab onto anything more than a strictly number 2 role. And I think I've seen instances this year where there's still a hope there that maybe he could go beyond a number 2. His skating still has to improve. I think he's still a little bit scrambly. I think both of the goalies are scrambly for that matter. We see it with Logan all the time. That's kind of his MO, but I've been happy with these two by a long shot. I think they've given them everything they need to, and then some. Like, honestly, if the team save percentage was at a 9, like 15, it would be good save. It'd be good goaltending. And you're sitting above a 930 right now. Like, you cannot complain with that. So we'll see. They got to play better teams. They got to play a lot of games, though. And this schedule's been easy. So you get to December's when we're going to find out about this.
That is all I needed to hear. I'm trying to stay a little bit out of it because I know I'm the mean guy. I'm the guy who gets all upset when everyone starts putting the goals saved against average after 6 games. Like, re-effing-lax, please, everyone. Nothing is known until a long way in. Like, this isn't. You can't just play 8 games and all of a sudden they have elite goaltending. Like, relax. Relax.
I had him picked when I did my goalie tandems. I think I had him 27th in the league because there's just so many unknowns.
Would you change that now?
They would be higher now. Yeah, because there have been some tandems that have not been good.
How high?
I would put them top 20, but still, I would probably put them around 19, 20 based on experience. And I'd probably at this stage, guess what? This will drive people crazy, but I'd have them way ahead of Minnesota right now. It's been a terrible start there. So, yeah, I would put this club if these two average a 920 over the course of the season, you're going to be in the top 15, probably top 10.
Yeah.
So
is that realistic?
I wouldn't put it past them, given what other teams have done. So I think it'd be a stretch, but I think these two will level off at 9-10, 9-14 by the end of the year is my guess. That's my date. We'll see.
Is that good enough in the playoffs?
In the playoffs? No. To get to the playoffs? Yes.
Well, there you have it. This show has been brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Thanks again to Jimerson for sponsoring all of Goalie Interference. We will be back next week. There's a bunch of games in between now and then, and interesting games. There's the Friday early game. Winnipeg comes back in. There's a Tuesday game at Washington. We'll learn a little bit more about this team. I think over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 weeks or so, we're going to know a lot more about where they're at. Well, maybe I'll change my mind and say they're a borderline cup contending team. I'm not quite there yet, but that's all we got for tonight. I don't know.
Mike, real quick.
Mhm.
Mike, do you like? Me and Ken disagree on this. I hate day games. How about a player?
Oh, I like.
Oh, I love them. They're the best.
Really?
You get to actually eat dinner. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, dinner.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of dinner. Actually, that's where I'm headed right now. I get Joe's tonight. Yes, let's go.
All right.
Good
I'm
night,
going to make some
everyone.
chili for the school teachers at my children's school. So,
Ooh.
What's in your chili? All right, hang on. We're not ending this yet.
I feel like
Describe
Mike.
your dish,
I
please.
feel like Mike's chili is very
Describe
complex.
your chili, please.
no, it's not. All it really comes down to is you just have to dump a whole load of seasonings in it. That's really all it is. Make sure it's salted. Make sure you got plenty of chili powder, cumin, coriander, Mexican oregano, a little bit of cayenne. That's the big thing.
Where's your
Use tomato
spice
puree.
level?
For something like this, I don't do it very high. With my kids, I don't either. I actually rely on hot sauce to kick up the heat because my kids don't like the heat too much. And I absolutely go with beans. I'm not from Texas. Texas
Yeah.
don't have beans, but I think beans really round out the profile of chili.
Sure do.
There you go. All right, that's it for tonight. Good night, everyone.